on page 80. We're discussing anger as opposed to kindness, calmness. We brought a number of examples from Tanakh about the bad qualities that come along with anger and about the positive characteristics that come along with calmness. There are many such passages in the Torah besides what we've already listed. And if you search through the Torah, literally take a Tanakh, go with a pencil, look through the stories to see which stories speak about anger, which have direct results, negative results, consequences because of anger, you will find them. We have already explained to you in one of the earlier chapters of this work. Remember, this is work, the early chapters we don't have, they were lost, and therefore we don't actually know what you wrote there. When you had in the Tanakh and Vayikra the man who blasphemed Hashem, the reason why he was punished was because of his anger.
So Arav is saying that anger is in itself punishable. It's considered its own crime.
Very good.
But
brings you to do many more crimes.
So it brings you to do, but wouldn't that be the more logical way to put it? Is that in itself it's not necessarily a crime, but in terms of what it can bring about, those are crimes that result in it. That are direct result of it, not that the anger itself is the crime.
Correct. They gave it to Ramban. Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman writes, "Ki hi midara'a lehachti b'nei adam." It's a character trait that causes everyone to do chatayim, to do sins. Correct.
But to look at it as itself is the emotion of anger.
Is a bad emotion.
It's bad, unarguably, but is the emotion itself a crime? Because seemingly it is, according to this.
Why?
Because it's stated.
Kisibat avono shel mekalel, because the reason that the mekalel sinned, hu akas, is because of his anger.
Sibat avono, isn't it more accurate to translate it as the reason it's a sin, the reason of the sin?
The reason of his sin, the reason that he sinned, began with anger.
Sibat avon.
Sibat shel avon shelo, ukas.
Because it can sound like it can also be interpreted as his sin was the anger part of it.
Not necessarily. You could probably, if you wanted to say that anger is a sin that is punishable, but not to the extent of the Mekalel, not what happened to him. וכבר הפליג שלמה בגנות הכעס ובשבח אריכות אפיים בפסוקים הרבה שהזכרנו חמיצתם ולך לזכור איתם. He said if you look through the verses of Shlomo HaMelech, he talks a lot about anger. וגם חז"ל הרבו לדרוש בגנות הכעס עד שאמרו, חז"ל also spoke about anger, similar to what Itai was saying before. הקורע בגדיו בחמותו. Somebody who because of his anger rips his clothing. ומפזר מעותיו בחמותו, or he scatters his money because he's angry. You know, he rips up a $1 bill, or he throws it out of the water, or whatever he does.
These anger of that magnitude seems a lot like that's what these sins and crimes are referring to more than the common anger of simple
This is just
annoyance.
an extreme anger.
So there's obviously a spectrum, so...
Of course, that doesn't mean that the spectrum is good.
But it means that there's certain things that are immediate, like annoyance, that no one acts upon ever. It just kind of happens when somebody like maybe stubs their toe or...
Okay, there could be kas that is warranted. Could be.
Like, it's something that happens in
But kas is the kind of character
seconds.
trait that you have to keep in check, or else.
But this sort of kas seems more like a sort of build-up of rage. That
Either a
feels-
build-up of rage, or a person who never controls his anger, and therefore, sometimes it'll be a small thing, sometimes that will lead him to
Sometimes
craziness.
a small thing is more of a spark that ignites built
But
up
why
rage
does something ignite? I mean, if your firewood is wet, you can't ignite it with the spark. If you work on your midot, something small won't ignite you. If you don't, though, anything can ignite you.
So then, yeah, in that case, a small instance of anger have to be put
Very
in more
limited.
check.
Correct.
But it doesn't seem like the average person having a moment of more like annoyance, really, to put it.
Annoyance and anger are not the same thing.
But certain types of anger are caused by brief moments of annoyance, and
Okay.
they pass 5 seconds. No one acts upon these, and therefore
Who says no one? You sure that no one acts upon it?
Well, I mean, most people don't really rip up scatter their money and
So they
rip up their
scream at
clothes.
somebody else, so they're rude to another person.
So that would also.
That's an agara.
It is an agara. So that's
anger leads them to that also. This is a kind of character trait which leads a person to bad things. So if you see a person who rips up his money, rips up his clothing, or he scatters his money because of anger, you should consider him in your eyes ke'oved avodah zarah, like an idol worshiper. Why? Kachi umanuto shel yetzer hara. This is the trait, this is the trick of the yetzer hara. Hayom omer lo aseh kach. Today he tells you get mad because he's annoying you. V'oseh lemachar v'aseh. And tomorrow you do it. V'lemachar omer lo lech v'avod avodah zarah v'oved. You become used to listening to your yetzer hara, and tomorrow it's something bigger.
So it's not specifically anger. It's just about anything that you give into your yetzer hara.
Very few things though, like anger, make a person lose their sense of control entirely. Other averot don't make a person just completely lose it, like anger does.
So anger is unique
Yes.
in that sense.
V'od amru sham, and they also said there, my dichtiv, what does it say? Lo yeh b'cha el zar. You should not have a foreign god within you. Ezehu el zar, sheyesh begufo shel adam. Which foreign god is inside of a person's body? Heve omer, you could say, Ze yetzer hara. This is the yetzer hara, the evil inclination. You have to understand, Rabbi Avraham ben Rambam, though, is not from the camp of what you hear today in your day school. Well, the yetzer hara shnei muvanim. There are two understandings of the yetzer hara. Klali u'miyuchad. A broad understanding and a narrow understanding. The broad definition is a force that causes all kinds of averot. So yes, it doesn't have to be anger necessarily. It could be any cause in the world that is your yetzer hara and it inclines you towards bad. That is the definition of the yetzer hara.
What I mean by specifically anger is that well, I've already answered it, but my question was more along the lines of does it have to be purely like is anger? So I've answered it that anger
is one of the few things that really makes
things that people. So somebody could do a different type of relatively minor avera, but it wouldn't have the same domino effect.
Exactly. Very good. The specific המיוחד הוא סערת כוח הרגש שאין עימה שיפוטו של השכל. The limited definition, the narrow definition, is the arousal of passion that is unchecked by your intellect. People who act on their impulse, on their emotions, and they never think through something is very dangerous. These people are able to do the worst things in the world. They also can do the nicest things in the world because nothing stops them from giving all their money away to tzedakah, and also nothing stops them from chas v'shalom killing somebody else. These are people who they act solely, purely based on what their heart tells them they should do. These people are dangerous.
Emotional people.
But it's not a good thing. Your sechel, your mind, should have complete control over your emotions. It doesn't mean to be a robot. It means to know right now this is not it's not appropriate. Right now, anger can get me in trouble. You know, there are people who they get drunk and they commit a crime, and the rest of their life they have to sit in prison for doing something while they weren't even aware of doing it. This is a person who pays their lifelong penalty of losing control over their mind. I mean, our rabbis say the worst part of getting drunk, doing drugs, whatever it is that people do, one of the worst things is that you become an animal. You no longer have the ability to think for yourself. And if you think, oh, okay, so I'll do it once and tomorrow I'll be a different person. All you have to do is see a person who chas v'shalom fell into this trap. And I can tell you from personal understanding of people that I've been with, for the rest of their life, their brain never goes back to normal. For the rest of their life.
It's a permanent.
It's a permanent damage. They've lost control of themselves, and they have no. It's sure they work their whole life. They work, and Baruch Hashem, people come as close as they can to getting better. But it's never, a person should never, ever, ever agree to lose their intellect.
So
Their mind is the only thing that separates us from being an animal. And that's why the Rambam, famous question the Rambam has, is the Gemara tells us that if you do an avera, you think about a chet in your mind, it's worse than actually doing it. That's what the Gemara says. It's worse to imagine doing an avera than to actually do the avera. Now, I'm not here telling you, okay, let's all do averot and not think about this. It's not what it's come to tell you. And the Rambam says the only thing that makes me human is my mind. Like animals, they can do it. You can do an action, but the one thing that is purely human is your intellect. And if you're a pogem, if you damage your intellect, it's much worse than damaging your body.
But how is a passing thought damaging?
Not a passing thought, an active thought. It could be, if I want to increase the things that a person can do in their mind, sometimes they never do in real life. Sometimes the things they dream about doing, what they want to do, it's not as exciting when they actually do the avera. And therefore, in one's mind, one can do worse things than one actually does in real life.
But it's not actually done.
Correct. But I'm ruining a part of myself that is purely human. I mean, that is human about me. If I do an avera of my body, okay, that's an animal part of me that does what... I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying that to really appreciate that our intellect, our sechel, has koach over our body. It's a very special thing, a very important thing. I was also the tzaddik who told me that if he would speak, he would be able to convince everybody in the world not to have a yetzer hara for arayot. Meaning, he could convince a man to never want a woman to never want a man. He could convince them such a thing. So why doesn't he do it? Because nobody would have children anymore, nobody would get married anymore, the whole world would be destroyed. But it's possible, with your intellect, to think about the things that your body wants you to do, and in your sechel, you say, this is crazy, this is not normal. But sometimes a person has to use their sechel. There's an extreme story about the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon lost his children on Shabbat, or a child at least, on Shabbat. And he came home on Shabbat and he heard that there was a child who passed away. And he didn't say anything. Shabbat Timizah. It's forbidden to mourn on Shabbat. He went to the Shabbat meal, he stayed, he did Kiddush, as if nothing happened. He went to the B'tez. The second he finished Havdalah, Baruch Ata Hashem, Elokeinu HaMavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol, he burst out crying. And when asked, he said, listen, I have complete control over my emotions. On Shabbat, one is not allowed to mourn. On the weekday, one is allowed to mourn. And therefore, he was able to... Now, that's a crazy way to control oneself. Might not even be so healthy. I'm not arguing. But what you see from here is that the goal, the dream, the hope, is to be able to completely control your emotions.
And and I'm assuming that Shabbat, the Vilna Gaon had the ultimate Shabbat joy that the Vilna Gaon usually had.
Yes.
So,
which makes the story, I mean, Hasidim might struggle with the story. It's a classic Vilna Gaon story, but this is a true story.
What does that mean, Hasidim might struggle with it?
It sounds too... The Hasidim struggle with the Vilna Gaon in general.
Okay.
And part of the struggle is that he seems too rigid, and this seems like a little bit of a rigid story. But the beauty of this story is not much. Rav Chaim of Brisk had to go through a medical procedure, and he did not want to be put under anesthesia. He felt that it was going to make him lose part of his life. And so he asked to stay awake, and while they were performing surgery, he controlled his thoughts to the point where he didn't feel a pit. Now, it's not a chidush. I mean, there are Eastern religions that spend their whole life trying to do such a thing. But the emet is that in Judaism, if a person truly wants, they can discipline themselves to the point where I can control how I feel, when I feel, what I feel. Think about it that every morning, a Jewish kid wakes up like every other kid. And also wants to eat, they also want to have breakfast, they also want to feel good. You're hungry after a whole night. But this Jewish kid says, I have to wash my hands first. I have to wash my hands first, I have to go to the bathroom first. I have to go to the bathroom, I have to say my brachot. I have to say my brachot, I have to pray shacharit. I have to pray shacharit. I have to take off my talit, I have to take off my tefillin, then I can go and I want to eat. I have to first wash my hands for bread. I have to make hamotzi, and then I can finally eat my food. He's not any less hungry than any other kid. But a Jewish kid has taught himself that before I pray, before I do time, I will not taste anything. And that self-control that one has, it's not something to be taken lightly. It's something that can take you through the whole life. You'll learn self-control.
But even fasting, it's not as much of an immediate, sharp, harder to control pain as surgery, as a medical
Correct.
procedure.
But sometimes the small things help you conquer the big things in life. When you're so trained, so trained about the small things. Think about how many people in the world try diets and then they break them 3 days later. They go on a diet and 2 minutes. What did one guy say? He said, "I'm so talented. I did my 2-week diet in 3 hours." So that was his. They gave up. People give up. The non-Jewish world never understands what it. I mean, your whole life you're not going to eat not kosher. Your whole life you're never going to try this. You're never going to try that.
It's also a matter of habit.
Correct, but this habit is not to be taken lightly. This habit leads me to be able to control myself.
It is a habit, and
Of
that
course,
habit is important.
Very good. Correct. One can train good habits. Correct. But don't take it lightly. You have a lot more spiritual power than you think you do. We'll continue tomorrow on page 82.